What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're going to take a look at my rankings, talk about the players who I've moved down the most over the last month or so. We're going to go in order of the rankings, talk about the biggest movers, and we're going to start off with DJ Moore, down 10 spots to the 403, one spot behind ADP. I've given my Bears take a few times now, but to reiterate the overall take for the Bears offense, I do think that Caleb Williams is going to be good this season. Not elite, but I think he's going to be really good. I also think that all three of these Bears wide receivers are going to have spiked weeks. Each one of them is going to have a week where they finish, I think, as a top 5 wide receiver. I think they all have that in the range of outcomes every time I step onto the field. I just also truly don't know who their most valuable wide receiver is going to be this season. And I certainly don't know who that's going to be in the second half of the season when it matters the most in fantasy. I think there's a very real chance that Odunze is their go-to wide receiver down the stretch. But I think there's also a chance that maybe Keenan Allen continues to be a target hog, that he's racking up 5, 6, 7 receptions every week, and he gets there through volume, sort of limiting the other two. And just because those two outcomes absolutely exist in my mind, it's really difficult for me to take DJ Moore ahead of his ADP when I know that the other two are great values, and that I just much rather wait for the two of them. I'm 11 spots ahead of ADP on Keenan Allen, ranking him at the 504. I'm 7 spots above ADP on Rome Odunze, ranking him at the 706. I would much rather pay those prices and take those two players than I would spend a 3rd round pick on DJ Moore. So that's why I had to move him back. But again, I'm still fine taking him. I'm right at ADP. And if he becomes a top player on the board in the early 4th round, and that's around where his ADP is, or even later than his ADP, I'm totally fine getting him there. It's just I was a little bit too high on him, just given my thought process for this Bears offense, and so I had to move him down. Also moved down Jayden Reed, down 6 spots to the 704, now about half a round behind ADP. Similar-ish situation to DJ Moore, but I actually have more concerns about Reed that I don't have, I guess, with DJ Moore. So with DJ Moore, I think that at worst you're starting him. If you draft him in the 4th round and he has a kind of a bad season, down season, maybe he's not the most valuable wide receiver in the Bears, I think you're still starting him in fantasy. Maybe you're somewhat disappointed in starting him, but you are still starting him. With Jayden Reed, I do think there's an outcome here that exists where you just don't trust him on a week-to-week basis. Last season, he got there on 10 total touchdowns, 8 receiving, 2 rushing. He only had 5.2 expected touchdowns. That gave him the 5th best touchdown luck among all players. Now, touchdown luck is actually a sign of a good player. It's indicative of someone on a good offense. So you don't want to completely discount it and be oh, he can't possibly score this season. He got lucky, it was all luck, right? Usually the most lucky players are the good ones. I just bring it up because he did only have 94 targets last season. And if we think Christian Watson is going to be back and healthier than last season, which he can't really be less healthy than last season, right? So if we think that's going to happen, if we think maybe Jacob stays healthier than Aaron Jones, which also tough to do, tough to stay less healthy than Aaron Jones was last season. So if both those two are going to take more of a workload, if we believe, Romeo Doubs, the DBs on that team have kind of been coming out there saying that he's been their best wide receiver. He's been the most difficult one to guard. If we think that Wicks might have a larger role this season, if we think they're going to mix in Bolton Mountain, it's where does that leave Jayden Reed? It's very difficult to actually go through and project all these Packers players, even with how good I project the offense to be, and to actually find enough targets for everyone. So do we think he hovers around 94 targets? Do we think he's dipping closer to 80 or 85? And if he's that low, how high of a ceiling does he really have? He could probably still pay off his ADP, but what? I mean, if he has 85 targets, he's probably hovering around 3.5 receptions every week if he remains efficient. So I don't know. I've just been leaning towards the other receivers recently. Why not spend a later pick on them, especially Christian Watson, who clearly does have the highest ceiling on this team, or even Romeo Doubs. Again, the DBs in camp have been calling him unguardable. They've been saying he has taken a step up this season. He's going to be awesome. It's I like Jayden Reed. I have him in Dynasty. I want him to work out, but do I want to be the first to take a Packers wide receiver when we know that target share is going to be condensed? We know that some of these other wide receivers are going to have a larger role than last season. It's like there's a lot of factors to where I'm like, he can absolutely pay off his ADP, slightly outperform. I want someone in this general range who I can see an easy path to crushing their ADP. And it's like I could see that with someone like Christian Watson on the same team. I don't know that I can see it with Jayden Reed, and so I would just prefer wait a little bit, grab the other receivers. If you want to take shots on this team, which we want to do it through Jordan Love or the other receivers. I don't know about Jayden Reed. I've also, of course, moved DeAndre Hopkins down. You basically have to down 20 spots to the 9-12. That's 2 rounds behind ADP, although I expect ADP to move down to about that spot. And this is solely due to the injury. He hurt his knee. We don't know yet the full timetable or time frame for it, but a month, maybe a month and a half. They're saying that they expect him to play in week 1, but the expectation is if he misses week 1, he's probably out there in week 2. My issue here is just that like Hopkins is 32 years old. He has Calvin Ridley to compete with. He's coming off now a knee injury, and he's catching passes from Will Levis. Like, it's very easy to look at that and be like, oh boy, like, could he succeed? Sure, because he's a great wide receiver. At times he's going to throw the ball a ton. I don't know. Like, I just think like with adding extra uncertainty and still not knowing how good Will Levis is, I think you have to just move him down again. I think ADP is going to basically go down exactly for what I've done. And if his ADP drops to where I have him now, again, like in the late 9th round, I think it's fine to draft him there. That's where I have him ranked. Expectation for me is that maybe ADP doesn't drop quick enough. And so for the most part, at least, especially if you're drafting right now, you're probably just avoiding him. I've also moved down Javonte Williams, 12 spots to the 11-01, 19 spots behind ADP. You all know how much I like Audric Estime, how much I think they're going to lean on McLaughlin a little bit more than people expect, but especially in the receiving game. Broncos also, I've mentioned this a number of times, second lowest points per game total in the league behind the Patriots. If you're second to the Patriots in something, that's not a good spot to be on. So if we are looking at this 3 running back rotation on the second worst offense in football, even with how good Sean Payton backfields are for running back production, that's going to be gross if you're paying the premium. It's fine for McLaughlin. It's fine for Audric Estime because you're taking those two outside the top 150 players. Like, you're taking them with one of your final, if not your final running back pick. It's totally fine to buy into that because you're like, okay, if Williams got hurt, if Williams got traded away, now we have upside. You don't want to spend the earlier pick on a player that I just don't know if Sean Payton likes him. Like, I know with 100% confidence that Sean Payton likes McLaughlin, likes Audric Estime. I don't know that he likes Javonte Williams. He's asking him to trim down. He's like, can you get back to how you looked in college? Because I don't know how much I liked this previous year's Javonte Williams. Great reports out of camp, but I still don't know if Sean Payton's kind of hyping him up so that he can trade him away. And that would definitely be a concern for me because the good landing spots would be like Dallas. It would be like the Chargers. That would be fantastic. But for the most part, if you're traded away in like August, it typically is to a situation where we're not in love with. Again, I want to invest in the Denver backfield. To be clear, it's a great situation overall, even if they're going to be like the second worst team in points per game. Sean Payton backfields have finished top 2 in running back half PPR points per game in 9 of 12 seasons. You want to invest in this team, but I think you do it as cheaply as possible. I think you say, okay, maybe McLaughlin is the next Kamara light. Maybe Estime is the next Mark Ingram light. I don't want to invest in a running back in this backfield that is like the only one from the old regime. I see the upside. I want to do it with the later ones. I've also moved AD Mitchell down 12 spots to 12.05, still half a round ahead of ADP. Been a roller coaster, though, for the Colts wide receiver room. So I want to talk about this. We'll talk about it more also on the Saturday video. So that'll be tomorrow's video for you guys because I'll have more information on this injury of Josh Downs. But to start the offseason, right, everyone's in love with AD Mitchell. And I was pointing out some like genuine concerns with his profile to where everyone was calling him like a lock to be in round 1. And I was like, I don't know about round 1. I think he's a good prospect, but my model doesn't love him. I think there's an upside path here, but people are probably a little bit hyping him up too much. Then he he goes a little bit later than people expected. Then camp happens, and they're rotating in Alec Pierce a lot more than expected. People are saying it's like Pittman's a clear 1, that Downs is the clear 2, that it's like a 3A, 3B situation between Pierce and Mitchell, with Mitchell being the B in that situation. And because of that, I've moved Downs over Mitchell in the rankings. I've started to take a lot more Downs. Mitchell at one point was like a top 5 wide receiver for me in terms of like roster percentage, just because I was drafting so much Anthony Richardson that I was like, I want to stack to someone. Now we get the reports that Josh Downs was tackled during 7-on-7 drill. We are not supposed to tackle someone to the ground. He suffers an ankle injury. I don't know yet. I mean, this happened the day I'm recording. I'm recording this 2 days before the video goes live. I don't know the severity of the injury. Again, in 24 hours for me, I'll probably know a lot more. So on the Saturday video, we'll talk about the situation. But we don't know. And so I planned on talking about how I'm moving AD Mitchell down, how he's probably not going to get as much opportunity to start the season because of how much Downs is breaking out this summer. Now we kind of need to just be in wait and see mode. If it's a high ankle sprain, if it's something worse, then he's going to miss time. Downs will also be limited pretty much all season. It might be someone we're not taking anymore. But then Mitchell would go up. He'd have a much clearer path to touches, much clearer path to a strong workload. And so it would just bring him right back up and maybe even more higher than we were taking him before. So again, watch the video for you guys tomorrow. I'll have a lot more news there. Rankings will be updated though. Like as we get news, I'll update the rankings obviously in real time. Another player I've dropped is Jermaine Burton, down a round and a half to the 412. That's still ahead of ADP. But my guess is on like the major platforms right now, if you're drafting on like ESPN, Yahoo, NFL, like all those sites where I'm pulling these ADPs from, many of those people don't even know who he is, right? So like I'm still behind ADP right now on Underdog, where people are actually paying attention to the draft. So I'm ahead of ADP on the major sites for him, but at the 412, you're probably at a ranking of that. Unless you're in a league that has like 17, 18 rounds, you're probably not really getting to that much. I was ahead of ADP with the summer that Andrei Josivac is having, with how good it looks like he's developing, how he's ahead. If the season started right now, he is ahead of Jermaine Burton. You kind of have to be like, okay, even if you don't want to rank Andrei ahead of Burton because you think that Burton's going to take over in the second half of the season, we don't know if that's going to happen because Andrei is also young. He's someone they're very excited about. I think you just have to move Burton down. Burton, someone that I highlighted in the finding the next Puka Nacua video of someone that has a lot of talent, is in a great opportunity. If you can win that 3 role and then you can have an injury, we're looking at a lot of upside. Or if they traded away T. Higgins later in the season because they're like, Burton's breaking out and Dre's breaking out, that's where the upside really comes in. My worry right now is that, they haven't traded T. Higgins. They might not trade T. Higgins all season. They probably won't be, to completely honest with you. And so if he's going to start the season as the 4 behind Andrei, who we also talked about in the Finding the Next Puka video, I don't know. I feel like you have to move him down. The vibes aren't great for Jermaine Burton right now. Then finally, Kimani Vidal. I moved him down 19 spots to the 512, about a round and a half behind ADP. I've always understood the Vidal hype, like where it's coming from. I've just never been able to get behind it. My model thinks he's bad. Many NFL teams agree. He went in the 6th round in a very bad running back class. Like if teams thought he was good, they would have taken him a lot earlier. The only reason people are on him is because the Chargers are going to run a lot and their current starters are pretty uninspiring. Again, I get that, but I need more than that. If I'm going to draft someone, like he can't catch, so we know the receptions won't be there. And so it all has to be done on the ground. That means you need Dobbins to get hurt and you need Gus to be like pass. You need Vidal to get ahead of Gus. And you then need that to happen, and then to also not trade for anyone, not sign anyone who's a surprise cut in August. There's a lot that needs to go right for this 6th round rookie in a bad class to break out. And if it'd be fine if he was like going super, super late in drafts, right? It'd be fine stashing as that last pick. He goes behind Tyler Algier, Kendre Miller, Jaleel McLaughlin, Elijah Mitchell, Khalil Herbert, Ray Davis, Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, Estime. Like, maybe you don't have that entire list ahead of him, but there's no way you rank Kimani Vidal first on that list. There's a lot of locked-in running back 2s on their team. on that list. And a lot of running back twos that will see snaps, will see opportunity starting in week 1. There's just a lot of locked in handcuffs there. Vidal is not a locked in handcuff. No guarantee he's active to start the season. He's getting 0 run with the first team offense right now. I just can't do it until it comes out where it's like, ooh, Vidal's mixing in with the first team. Ooh, Vidal looks fantastic in camp. Oh, we have now an injury to some of these running backs, right? Like until that actually starts to happen and people aren't just guessing that it will, I'm going to have to remain behind ADP. So if you want to see where I have every single player ranked, you can see that on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And if you want access to those rankings for free, all you have to do is sign up for your first Underdog account today using promo code FFA and make a minimum $10 deposit. I will email you your login the following morning. So if you sign up with the promo code, minimum $10 deposit, the next morning, you're going to get an email with access to my rankings for free. So that'll do it for this one. Please leave a like if you watched this far. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new here. But I'll catch you guys in the next one, and thanks for watching.